today Bobby, can you please put them up? For me, so sometimes people ask, I've had parents in school ask, sometimes, how do you develop critical thinking in people? How really do you develop critical thinking? And what I say all the time is just get the children, get them to look at things. That's why without apologies, that's why we lawyers, we really understand, because you will know how to present things from two sides. You know how to speak for the plaintiff and for the defendant. You know how to argue every case. So we know how to look at things from different angles, and that's how to build critical thinking. So I want to see what stuff you are made of this morning. Morning here where I am. So, what would you rather be? I want you to look at this question, think about it, and tell me why you chose your answer. And that's how we continue to, make sure that we're not, our brains keep like being fired up, and we're also helping our children, mentees, learn how to continue to develop their thinking. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and our guest speaker, Mrs. Onyeali-Ikpe, Nneka, please, I want you to also, I'm going to be asking you some of these questions. So first question, everybody, what would you rather have? Telekinesis, that's the ability to move things with your mind, or telepathy, the ability to read minds, or voice mimicry, the ability to mimic someone else's voice perfectly? Which one would you like? Okay, Mrs. Kitchener says telepathy. I see a lot of telepathy. Telekinesis, Uche, okay. The question is then why? Why? Why do you want to be able to move things with your mind? Why do you want to be able to read people's minds? I see Teke Kubu basis. That's not part of the option, no. Nkechi, Teke something. Why do you want to be able to read people's minds, Uche? Let me read your answer. Why? Why do you want to read people's minds? So you know what they're saying about you. It will be too harrowing to know all that goes on in people's minds. Yeah. It will be interesting to know what everybody around is thinking. And telekinesis. Why do you want telekinesis? I want you to put the why. Telepathy to eradicate assumptions. So instead of you assuming the person loves you, you're like, oh, okay, so this is what she really thinks, or this is what he really thinks. I'm enjoying this, honestly. Telekinesis, so I have things moving fast. You want to be a fast mover. Uche wants to be able to arrange her house without moving an inch. You guys are just amazing. I'm honestly cracking up here. All right. Okay. Mrs. Onyeali-Ikpe, what would you choose? I'd like to hear from you before I move to the next second question.
I think telepathy.
Telepathy, why? Why?
Just
why
so that you know what they're thinking, I guess.
We all want to know what other people are really, really, really thinking.
I'm not sure about telekinesis, because that would be witchcraft.
I thought of when somebody said, moving things with your mind. It's also science sometimes,
Science.
But it's really scary when you are looking at something.
It's scary.
And the thing is moving. Scary. And somebody says she wants to use that so she can move things around in her house.
It's like what you see in horror movies.
Exactly. All right, second question. Nobody wants to mimic anything like a parrot. That's really funny. All right. Someone says telekinesis is like being a ghost. Second question. Would you rather have the ability to fly or be invisible?
None of the above.
And why? Honestly. And why? You don't want to be invisible, or you don't want to fly. That's our guest speaker said that already. Ability to be invisible. You see, some people want to read people's mind and they want to be invisible. They just want to be like that, creeping around people. Why do you want to be invisible? Who wants to be invisible? To avoid Lagos traffic. Oh my goodness, you fly to avoid, you'll just be flying. In fact, you won't need to buy tickets anymore to. All right, the next question. Honestly, I'm just finding it so funny. Next question. Now, would you rather live in a world with no technology or live in a world with no books, and why? Nneka, would you go first?
Would you like to live in a world with no technology? No. Would you like
or
to live in a world with no books? No.
you have to choose one. It is one, which is either or.
Or I
Which
don't even know if I'd rather pass on this.
All right. Some people say no technology. Are you sure? You know, that's what I was doing this, asking this question, my daughter and I. And when I said, of course, because I love reading a lot, and I thought, of course, it must be books. And she said, Mommy, can you really do without technology now? She says, look at everything you do at work in preparation for your presentations, all the information you have access to. Look at what AI can do today. Am I saying that I still prefer books? And I thought, I really need to think about that again. Technology has changed the world. Technology has truly changed the world. So somebody says no books because we can read books online. I love that. I love that. Okay, I've just one or two more questions. The next one, please. Yes, technology. Next one. Would you rather be able to rewind time or fast forward time? And I'm really asking our guest speaker, you know what I find out, Nneka? Most of the time, our speakers are like, oh, let's look, I'm very busy. And I say to people, we must learn to just, just go with the flow sometimes and just have fun. So I want some answers from you. Would you like to rewind time or fast forward time? Which one would you prefer? Anything. I'm waiting. While I'm waiting for you, I'm reading the answers. Rewind. You want to go back? I really don't know if I want to rewind time more. You want to correct some mistakes. You want to rewind to correct some mistakes. Okay. 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 People want to correct some mistakes, but I kind of think, and nobody wants to fast forward. I know nobody wants to fast forward because we think fasting forward will mean it's time to check out. I'm sure. Fast forward and use it to correct the problems in the future. That's what I thought. If I go forward, I can quickly see whatever the issues are, correct it. So the last question, the last question, would you rather have the ability to breathe underwater like swimmers do, or the ability to walk on water as Jesus did? Which one would you rather? Yes? Keep the answers coming. Keep the answers coming. Walk on water, I knew, because I said as Jesus did. Everybody wants to walk on water. Right. Okay. Well, nobody wants to swim. Nobody wants to learn to swim. You all want to swim. Somebody wants to swim underwater. I can see the sports people. All right. Thank you. You've been an awesome audience. And Jesus Christ walked on water. So you want to walk on water.
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I honestly love to do this at the beginning just to see what we're thinking and just to ease into things. So I greet you once again, and I would like to ask. I gave an assignment on Wednesday, and I reminded everybody on Tuesday. I reminded everybody on Wednesday. Today is Thursday, and the assignment was, after the session on that day, I wanted you all to go back to your workplace and to ask one of your leaders, just one of your leaders, who will lead next after you. Who are you grooming? Who is leading next? excuse me, it's morning here, and sometimes in the morning I haven't had my cup of coffee or anything, so please excuse me if I clear my throat sometimes. So for some of us, we work for ourselves, we own our businesses. It might be like a really nice shop or something, and you're thinking, okay, I really don't have a lot of staff working with me. I would expect you then to have asked yourself that question: who is going to lead next? Who is going to lead next? You know, I'm very particular about this because that's the whole essence of this summit. And I said to us yesterday, I'm sure that you can be sure that I do not have the time to just come and sit down and be talking and bring all the guest speakers to come and talk about this thing just for gist and for laughs and for random questions. It's because we're doing what we know to help each other, because I have learned a lot. I'm sure you have learned a lot. Other speakers have said, you know what, I've also learned. We all learn from each other. And that's the whole essence of coming together, to learn from each other and to go ahead and do those things. So, who is leading next? Have you asked anybody that question? Have you asked yourself that question? And before I go into today, I'm going to spend some time talking about the mastermind that I have organized. The mastermind program, I've said to you, a lot of speakers have come. They've told us exactly what they're doing and all that. What you've done is to hear about what other people are doing. But the problem or the question is then, how do I do it in my own situation, in my own industry, in my own space? How really, step by step, do I develop other leaders? How do I develop this pipeline of leaders? How do I craft my succession plan? And that is why I've organized that mastermind. The mastermind starts in April, I believe, first week in April, and is running for 2 good months. Every Saturday through April and May, we will be working on how from hiring, managing your talent management, from hiring, how to develop leaders, how to build your leadership pipeline, and how to craft a succession plan. I'm going to be looking at that. And today, I know that my executive assistant is there. He's put the link to the mastermind for you to register for the mastermind in the chat box. Please go there, register. You can also book for a call to talk to me if you want to find out a bit more about it. So who's going to lead next? That is what we're talking about. And I've tried to disabuse our minds from the fact that when we're thinking of leadership pipelines or succession, some people think we're only thinking of who's going to replace the CEO. One man does not make a forest. One person, one entrepreneur, no matter how iconic, cannot make any business endeavor successful. It's a team. Now, how are you developing the team that you have so that there's organizational continuity? We've talked about the fact that the only industry right now that seems to be quite well regulated in terms of succession planning is the banking industry. And what I've been told is, so CBN has given them a framework. But even at that, each bank would have to look at its own practice and then, put together a really well-structured succession plan. We have had this Nneka would be our second banker. We had Yamisi Edu come in 3-4 days ago, and she told us how she rose through the ranks to become the MD of FCMB and how she was bought. She said with succession, sometimes you either build, you buy, or borrow. In her case, she was bought. And then she was developed. She will go through all the competency-based tests and all that. And she told us how she rose. I have read Nneka's bio, and I'm going to read it out in a minute. And I could see how she rose from within Fidelity to be the awesome CEO that she is today. So I want you to look at your work, your business, your organization, your institution, your church, anywhere you have people gathered and you are leading. What is your plan for succession? What is your plan for the key positions and the key roles? Is not only the role of the CEO. So succession planning, I want this to sit on us, please. Succession planning is a future-oriented strategic process. It's a future-oriented strategic process. The problem we have is we're all very, very, very consumed with the present. We're looking at things happening in our organizations. We have to deal with the day-to-day, issues. Even when we have strategic meetings, we're looking at the corporate strategies. We're looking at how to achieve our visions, our long-term goals. But we neglect to look at the long-term health and success and continued success of our organizations. And that is where the problem is. And I said it, I quote it every day, I've been on this summit, that David Archer of the Harvard Business School says, succession planning is as important, if not more important, than our corporate strategies. But we keep focusing only on the corporate strategies. Succession planning is a future-oriented strategic process, a process where we not only identify people for critical roles, but we work towards developing these candidates to prepare them for when vacancies arise. The best thing most of us do is we have the lists. We have our list. We have an idea of who you're going to put in that department if he leaves, or who you're going to put in that department if she leaves. But we haven't crafted anything. We haven't developed those people. So to get into that, they say most newly minted leaders fail. Newly minted, they call it chassis, new car, new leaders. They get there and they fail. Why? Because they were never really prepared. And that's what this whole summit and the mastermind I have organized is all about. We've learned a lot. Yesterday was awesome. Would you agree with me? Every day has just been spectacular, and I just give God all the praise. Mrs. Amber yesterday emphasized intentionality. She emphasized the hiring process. She emphasized the fact that in her organization, it's a professional learning community. Everyone learns. And you know what happens when we learn and learn and learn, and it's not even only the potential successors that are learning, what you find out is you have a bigger pool of talents. And that's what we need to continue to focus on. Again, I ask you, who have you asked that question? Have you asked anybody who's going to lead in your department after you? At least once a year, you must have leaders that you are asking that question. So today we have another awesome personality. Remember the first time I met Nneka, I think that was the first time. Her child was in Meadow Hall. And I remember clearly seeing this lovely, well put together lady. Nneka, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Always no hair out of place. She's always looking so distinguished. And I remember seeing her, and we spoke. And one thing that struck me on that day was just the encouraging nature that you have. You celebrated me. You were like, I love what you do. I felt so encouraged on that day. You really, I don't know, you just have that thing about you. And I believe that is what has also helped you in your leadership, because you know how to bring out the best. Honestly, I left that day thinking, oh, you just want to feel appreciated. It's not every time, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, sometimes it can get to you. But that day, you really celebrated me, you commended me, and we talked on that day. But I remember how impeccable you looked. And thereafter, I've had dealings with Fidelity. I do, I have several banks I also work with, But I also remember one day being called by Fidelity to come and lead a prayer session, with their team. And I thought, wow, I didn't know that bankers prayed. That tells me again who is at the top. John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. No matter who brought the idea, she might have said no. This is not, but they understand, Muslims, Christians, everyone there, they understand the importance of, just depending on a higher being. And I want to commend you again for that, Nneka. Appreciate what you're doing at Fidelity Bank. So I'm going to read your bio. Nneka Onyeali-Ikpe. Do I call your surname properly? I really like to call people's
Yes,
surname.
you do. Yes, you're doing that.
Thank you. She is the Chief Executive Officer and the Managing Director of Fidelity Bank PLC, a foremost financial institution with a client base of about 8 million customers. Nneka joined Fidelity Bank as an executive director in 2015 and was appointed managing director, CEO of the bank in January 2021. Following her appointment, Nneka became the first female MD CEO in the history of the bank. Nneka has had over 32 years of rewarding banking experience spanning Citizens International Bank, Zenith Bank, and Standard Chartered Bank, among others. She was the executive director at Enterprise Bank and Fidelity Bank for several years before her appointment as the managing director and chief executive officer at Fidelity Bank. She has been involved in the structuring of complex transactions in oil and gas, manufacturing, aviation, real estate, and export, amongst others. Nneka is widely regarded as one of Africa's leading female CEOs with a reputation for authentic leadership and proven people skills. I said it, didn't I? In identifying talents, opportunities, and executing complex business deals. In recognition of her leadership and outstanding performance, she received commendation from AMCON as a member of the management team for restructuring and turnaround of the erstwhile Enterprise Bank. Dr. Onyeali-Ikpe has been recognized by numerous local and international bodies for her sterling achievements. Most recently, the National Award of the Officer of the Order of the Niger by the federal government of Nigeria in 2023. OON, the Best Banking CEO Nigeria Award 2023, and the Global Banking and Finance Awards in 2023. Nneka also serves on several committees and organizations. She is happily married to a gentleman, Dr. Ken Onyeali-Ikpe, and they are blessed with 2 beautiful children. I want more claps, more claps, more claps, more claps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we are so pleased and honored to have you here today, Nneka. And we're going to be starting. I know everybody's, we're waiting with bated breath. We're waiting. Thank you for the flowers, for the claps and all that. So we want to hear a little bit about your journey, Mrs. Onyeali-Ikpe. How has your leadership journey been so far? Could you just tell us a bit about it?
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Kehinde. Like you said, I remember very well when you were still in Lekki.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's when my son came for must have been not sure something, or the level for 22 now, so I don't remember. So and I said to you that from my vision of you that you need a bigger place, and then we're discussing this present location. because it was owned by one of my customers who we needed to offload at that time. And fast forward, I was now in the school, my son, and the next conversation I had with you, if I remember, was that you need to build a permanent site.
Yes.
And we went on that discussion till I think maybe the economy and all of that, and the insecurity. You now said you want to pen that for now. I mean, outside Lagos. So congratulations on your achievements. I saw you from ground zero.
Absolutely.
And I can only say that it's been marvelous achievement, what you've done with your school. So let me start by commending you, at least for them to know that you have done marvelously well. So there's no better person to anchor a program like this. Because, and then I was in the plane with you one day, I remember. I slept all through. Kehinde walked all through. I slept, I woke up, I still saw her walk. I said, oh my God, I better find some work to be doing. And later on, I asked you before we disembarked, you said you had an exam. You had some, I think it was when you're doing your doctorate and all that. I said, you didn't sleep all through the night? I said, well, I have to. So thank God for the hard work and all of that. Just to tell our younger people that nothing comes easy. All these accolades that you see, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. So it's a culture that we need to imbibe, all of us. Okay, my name is Nneka, like she said, and I'm the group managing director of Fidelity Bank. And of course, a leading commercial bank, sixth biggest bank in Nigeria right now. And I attended University of Nigeria, Nsukka for my bachelor's, and King's College London for my master's in law. I'm a lawyer, and I have diploma in organizational leadership from Said Business School, Oxford, and like she said, and recently doctorate, honorary doctorate degree from Nsukka UNN. I've also attended several training programs in Harvard, Wharton, name them, all over the place. Chicago Business, London Business School, IMD, all of them, because I've been in the executive role now for close to 13 years, going on to 15 years. So in the executive role, you have to train and retrain and retrain and retrain all the time, whether you like it or not. The central bank actually ticks off on it. Okay, so they actually tick off on it. I'm going to get to that. So my banking career spans over 34 years. And when I look back, I can't even see the 34 years myself because I've always been engrossed in this job. And when you do what you like, you don't know when time passes. That's all I can say to this. So when I look back, I can't even see the 34 years, meaning that the child that was born when I entered inside I started banking would have married and had 2 children by now. A child that was conceived when I joined banking would have married and had 2 or 3 children by now. So it's amazing. Okay, so I spent a lot of time in the banking industry through, like she said, Standard Chartered, Zenith, Citizens, Enterprise. I was an executive director in an enterprise, then executive director in Fidelity before I ascended the role. And of course, my experience spans through every area of the banking industry. The only place I haven't worked is operations. But I've done everything legal, been as a lawyer and all of that. So legal, corporate banking, institutional banking. I did some credit risk department at some point and all of that. So very, very experienced, I can say. And then, of course, this dovetails into what we're speaking to today, which is human capital development. And I have extensive experience in this. I believe that no one can succeed as a leader without the ability to attract and retain the best talents. And I have a natural flair for mentoring and grooming young professionals to maximize their potentials. So leadership is about personal development and continuous learning. And we're going to look into that today. Though my first degree was in law, I've been in the financial industry all this while, like I said to you. I've never used my wig and my gown for one day. And I had to learn and relearn. I had to learn and relearn everything. And of course, like I already told you about all the courses that I attended, that helped me to grow the financial space. And I had to do a lot of training for myself. I had to do a lot of personal development for myself, because you cannot be amongst accountants and all the professionals, and then when they're speaking, you don't know the language, you don't know. I mean, you can't get to where I've gotten to today if you don't deliberately learn those things. So I had to work harder than my colleagues because I was not a financial person. So I had to learn and learn and learn. So that is what I'm here to tell you today. So, like I said, she already said I'm married with children. That's very important as well, because you have to have a balanced life. I can tell you that a good work-life balance is what every woman needs to ensure that you're a total person. There are difficulties with running the home at a very high level, with all the challenges of wearing all the hats, but you have to wear them. You have to wear them, and that's what makes you the total person. So, so that's what I've done so far, and that's yeah,
Right.
just to tell you that the fact that you're a professional woman does not mean you will not be a good mother. Doesn't mean that you will be a good wife. You have to juggle all
Absolutely.
of them. You have to juggle
Absolutely.
all of them. Yeah.
I love that because there's a saying that I have. I actually learned it somewhere, but I've tweaked it a bit. And it says, you can build a home and still fly.
Yes, you can.
That is absolutely what you can build a home and still fly. Birds, you see a bird, they would have a nest, right? When they lay eggs, when they're raising the young, you will see them always there with the eggs. But after a while, when the eggs hatch and the little, they begin to grow, the little birds begin to grow, the bigger birds, they fly away. And so you can raise the home, do what you need to do, and still fulfill destiny. You can still go ahead and make an impact in the world. And one does not have to suffer because you understand building that nest and then still fly. So I think that is
The
what.
comment, the add-on I need to put to this
Yes.
is that to make this easier for you as a career woman, you need solid support.
Oh,
You need
definitely.
solid support. You pay for it. You need
In,
solid support.
I
The support system has to be impeccable, from your driver to your steward to your cook to everybody. You need to go a notch higher and hire people who have who are what's the word I use, that can work without too much supervision. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it is so key, and it's a good reminder for us as women that in trying to achieve all this, it's not in flying and keeping the home, it's not that, oh, you're just a superwoman. It's because you have a strong support system. Strong support system. So thank you for that. So now the next thing is, you have risen through the ranks to an extent. You've also mentioned job rotation, because I can hear you said you've been in legal, corporate banking, you've done risk, you've been in risk and all that. So you've done quite a number. You've been able to gather quite a lot of experience from different areas. Now, with all this knowledge you have, I've also heard from what you've said that you're very big on training, personal development. You've been very deliberate about ensuring that you improve yourself. Now, with all these trainings that you have, and before then, I would like to know the journey. How did you then rise and become the MD of Fidelity Bank? How was your journey? How were you prepared? As we said, I know that CBN insists that there must be a succession plan. And again, with all sadness, and we commiserate with the family of Herbert Wigwe, and everything that happened, the very sad situation that hit us in Nigeria, because it was just very devastating for all of us. But we've seen, because of the proactive nature of what CBN has put in place and the bank itself, almost immediately they've been able to bring somebody in, Mrs. Bolaji Agbete, as the acting MD. So how did Fidelity Bank prepare you for this role?
Thank you very much. That's a very brilliant question. Absolutely. At Fidelity, succession planning is the bedrock of our business continuity framework. I was an executive director in the bank for several years before I became the managing director. As a matter of fact, I managed the Lagos and Southwest region of the bank for 5 years. And in all of that, like I said, we have a succession planning framework in place at all levels. It's not just at this very executive level, at every level in the bank, at all levels. And it is a regulatory issue, like I said to you. The moment you get to an assistant general manager in the bank, we make returns about your progress to the central bank. And we have the preferred persons regime where you must do 2 years in every level you are before you can progress to the next level. What that does is that people are not able to fly around the way they used to fly in those days of 6 months here, 6 months there. No, you must get the experience that you need at a certain level, no matter what, no matter how good you did the work. You must do 2 years as in you must. And what this does is that it's a deliberate attempt by the regulator to have people mature into the roles that they're going to take. So, like I said, it's a regulatory issue, and the regulator reviews it every time they come for an audit. Okay, so it's a Fidelity. I mean, Fidelity does that, but it is regulatory driven. You have to do it and tick the boxes. Okay, so management must develop all the competencies. It's our responsibility as management to develop all the competencies across the network for all the critical roles. You know, and so for that in that way you minimize the key man risk, like what we're seeing in bank just mentioned, and ensure business continuity where there's a problem like what has just happened. So if all this was not being done, you will have a crisis because there'll be a big gap, and then it will take a while for the institution to fill it up. So, but that's why I tell people that the banking industry, there's a lot of talk around banking industry. I said it is the best run sector that I know in Nigeria. And the regulator is doing a fantastic job. I say to them, even outside the country. You see, central bank that you hear in the newspapers is not the central bank that we know. The central bank is very well run. It's a very, very deliberate institution, okay, in delivering their job. And you can't beat them when they come for audits. You must show them everything. You must show them everything. So what's the point trying to be funny? So everybody goes for training. All the executives go for their training. Everybody gets trained. And I started my banking career from ground zero. And I went through in these 34 years that I spoke to you about. I went through all the various departments in the more or less like business development side. I just didn't do operations at home. But in all those years, I can tell you that training was the biggest thing in the on the table. Make sure that you're trained. And some of the levels that I went through, you had to do exams, proper exams. You have to actually pass the exams. I always tell people a story about when I was in Standard Chartered. I was supposed to do exams for insurance, and unfortunately, I was ill, and I was not able to do it. And I was not able to do the exam on that day. I never sold an insurance policy until I left because they won't let you sign off. They won't let you sign off. And if I had an insurance business that I was pitching, I would have to go to a certified insurance person to sign off for me, which means that you have to see the business to that person. So that's how deliberate the industry is. And in Fidelity Bank is exactly the same thing. So the succession planning is very well planned, and we work with it all the time. And you're expected to review it and put it on again, and then put it forward every time there's an audit. So because sometimes people leave and all of that, so you have to rejig it and make sure that all the spaces are filled up. And a situation where you don't have candidates, they will insist and they'll keep calling for you to fill up that space. That's the regulator. Every time they come, they'll let you. They'll ask you, why haven't you filled up this space? And they will let you go the first year or the second, but by the third year, because they'll flag it. You get a penalty for it.
It's so beautiful. And again, for those who have been at every day of the summit, they would see exactly what you're saying ties in with what Yemisi says, and which also, alludes to the fact that CBN is really doing a good job in terms of, regulating.
Succession planning, yes, I can attest to that.
Succession, it's very good. So I'm going to just ask, okay, so you've mentioned some steps, but quite a number of what you mentioned, that some of the things she mentioned as well, going around, a lot of those different should I say parts or departments in the bank, the three she talked about, also the mentorship, you talked about the training as well, the mentorship, they have mentorship, they do the 360-degree feedback, job rotation, all these things in preparing other people. So you mentioned some of the things you have gone through. Now, you in preparing, apart from what the CBN does, can you go into a little bit more about what Fidelity does? So I'm in this position and you have identified me as a potential successor. What are the steps you are going to put me through?
Yeah, like I said, for me, to speak to myself, because I mean, I passed through several institutions, attended several training, I was mentored, coached by a lot of people, industry experts. On my own part, I was also selected by the regulatory authorities to run Spring Bank, which is the bank that has metamorphosed into Heritage, and I mean into Enterprise then Heritage. Also worked at an international bank where I gained a lot of best in class practices, like I explained. And then, of course, as executive director, I did quite a bit and turning the directorate around, and all this prepared me for my role. So, having done that, I know exactly what you need to do to prepare somebody for a role. And first of all, in Fidelity Bank, what we do is to identify the high potential employees, HPEs, I will call them, mainly through three major rules. One is the competency assessment program.
Absolutely.
That program, then the second one is the performance appraisal process, and the third one is the talent review session at the end of every appraisal session. Okay. Speaking to the competency assessment program, we ensure fairness and objectivity. And for that reason, we always engaged one of the big four to take our senior management through a series of competency assessment programs. The assessment involves both written tests, psychometric assessment, and one-on-one interviews. Why do we do the psychometric assessment? We want to be sure that the person you're dealing with is stable mentally. In days like this, when there's a lot of mental health issues, you don't want to take a cycle and give them a big role. And then, so all those are deliberately done. The objective of this competency test is to identify the high potential employees and the weaknesses of others. So the identified weaknesses of those people are remedied through a series of intervention programs. So this exercise is normally very, very extensive. And the idea is to get two things out of it. One is who is ready for the next, for the succession plan, and who is not. And then when you identify those that are ready for the succession, so to speak, you put them through another path. If you identify the ones that you have shown that have shown weakness, you put them through another path, which is more or less like a retraining and trying to get them to come to speed, because everybody has their own strengths. Some people's own are latent and you need to tweak it. You need to get them into the mood. And some people are just complacent. So you try to deal with all those issues. So we also have the performance appraisal cycle, which is done twice a year. And of course, this consists of some couple of KPIs, which is the key performance indicators, which we usually use to do the quantitative and the qualitative review of the people's work. Okay, so in addition, for completeness, we also have the 3 degrees appraisal that you asked about, which is a two-way process where each subordinate rates their boss. That also helps us to determine the leadership potential of a staff, and where it needs improvement, you can start on time. Okay, because I mean, some people are very talented, they're very good in numbers, but they're just not people, they don't know how to lead people. So that way you start to teach them on time and start to deal with that side of what you consider to be a weakness in these candidates. Okay, so we also have the talent review session, which is held at the end of every appraisal cycle. This review session is a collaboration between HR and the business heads of the best performing employees who we have identified. Once you identify the best performing employees, their business heads and the HR hold hands to now put them through mentorship and career development programs. And they will now be specially trained for the leadership positions in the bank. So the head of the business head of a HPE, highly performing employees, will be asked, what additional training do you think this person needs to take him to the next level of leadership? Because of course, leadership has various levels. And like I said to you earlier on, our succession planning is at every level. As a head of operations, you must have 2 people behind you. As head of a business, you must have two people behind you, and
Mm.
like that, because anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen. So we must have somebody ready to step into those shoes immediately. And if you notice very recently, Fidelity is now like a training ground for leaders. Every day they come and poach our leaders. In this last two, we lost, we lost three. We lost three, like just about 1 year ago. Only for us to lose two in the last exercise that happened with the central bank. And I'm like, oh my God, why Fidelity? But I just realized because things are deliberately done in this bank, and people will have a death of very deep war chest, so to speak.
I'm going to just
Please don't
take,
come and poach more.
you know, people have said, okay, so I've heard leaders, and by the way, on the platform, we have actually most of them are business owners, people who are, because it's about succession, so they're not really like young, they just really want to know, yeah, how do we take this to the next level. Now, so people have said, a lot of business owners on the platform and leaders have said to me, what you mentioned. So sometimes we train them because we all know that succession planning and leadership training or development, they're Siamese twins. They go hand
Yes,
in hand. You
yes, yes.
cannot not train who you are going to have as who the potential successors. So people then say that I train them and they leave. So what would be your advice to that? What do you do? Are you going to stop training?
No, no, you can't. You can't. What you just do is that you have a war chest. You don't
Mm.
train one or two. You train many
Ah,
because they must. I mean, you also want to be happy for them. For example, the two that left us lately, one was
yeah,
made a managing director, one was made an
right.
executive director. You have to celebrate and be happy for them. So
Beautiful.
what you
Yeah.
do is to dip your hand, go back into your war chest, and pick somebody else that's good to one of you are prepared anyway. So
Yeah.
and then from them you support them. Yeah,
Yes. Ah,
you support them. Somebody said incentives help for retention. I'll get to that.
yeah, right. So we get that. So yeah, that's beautiful because when you talk about, in making sure that you have a very, solid war chest, it's so true. And I believe that when one has an organization that's really a learning organization anyway, it's already in the DNA of the company. So people are being trained. And the more you have people being trained, the more you discover talents. And so
Yes,
you're going to have a strong, bench strength so that anything happens, you know who to. There's an accident on the pitch, you know who to send immediately. So I think that's what you're doing. All right. So I will ask one more question before I launch a quick poll. I want to see how people are doing. So have you ever had to bring in external leaders from other places? As we say, succession planning is not only about your position or my position, it's really key positions and key roles. Some positions are not even that high, but the roles are
very
absolutely
critical.
crucial, critical.
Yeah.
So, have you ever had to bring external people in?
Yes, Fidelity, despite the fact that, like I told you, that Fidelity has built a lot of competencies over the years, and we
Yes.
have very skilled workforce.
Yeah.
There are times in rare occasions when you need a special skill
Mm,
set, okay, and that role is not available in-house.
mm,
In the situations like that, you have to advertise. For
mm,
example, there was a time the central bank said that we had to get the chief, what they call the CISO of a bank, who is in
mm,
charge of the uh, um, security of our platforms.
yeah.
Okay, so that's a specialized role, and
Mm,
the central bank wanted them to come in at a certain level. So
mm,
maybe the person who is running it for you at that time is at a lower level than the central bank has requested because of the criticality of that role in today's cyber issues in the country and all over the world. They raised the bar. So
mm,
this chief information security officer is supposed to be at a certain level. So if the person you have within your bank is still at a lower level, the central bank will not allow you to fast promote him. No. So in a
mm,
situation like that, you would need to poach somebody from somewhere. So I'm
yeah,
just giving you sometimes a special skill that
mm,
something throws up. Everything things evolve every day. You would
right.
have to
I like
fill it up.
I
Yeah.
like the fact that I said you have to poach somebody. So that means you also have poached from somebody.
I have to poach somebody, and they're poaching my own. So I have to poach their own when I need a special skill set.
Okay, so when you bring this person in from outside, sometimes, as you said, sometimes it's just necessary. It might just be, or you're also looking at your vision, and maybe you have also tweaked it because this is 21st century. You've looked at, and then there's some futuristic things that you need. And you know that the people that you have, they're not ready or they don't have, you probably need to bring that person in. How do you ensure alignment? Because sometimes there's just that mismatch of DNA when you bring somebody in. And I know, so of course, I believe that you have your process even in employing, such people. So how do you make sure that there's that alignment, that person that's coming in?
That's why we have very skilled people in HR. We have the culture of the bank. You try to acculturize the person. You do all of that, but it's an effort that takes a little while. Nobody can join you from an institution that doesn't have the same culture with you. First of all, and then overnight. No, you have to call the person slack. From day one, the person has to be a cultural fit in the assessment. You have to ensure that he, first of all, they must be coming from a bank, I mean, an institution that has the same values with you, generally. When you run interviews, you generally are looking for your like for like, so to speak. Okay, so you don't bring somebody that's coming from a bank that are reckless and all of that into a bank that is very deliberate and structured and has a lot of corporate governance. Those things come to play in the interview. So first of all, you eliminate some of this recklessness or whatever, very different culture at the interview level. But when they come in, there will still be some issues. It's only human. Okay, so that's where HR comes in. That's where HR comes in. The bosses work with you, your bosses work with you, and the HR works with you to help you to tie through. Yeah. That's
that's
and of course, what we'll also practice very, very big in Fidelity Bank is what we call psychological safety. When somebody comes into your organization and feels comfortable that you, the organization, as well as the executive, is watching his back. You're not there to criticize him. You're not there to kill him when he makes mistakes. He's able to soar and bring out the best in him. So the psychological safety is very key, especially when you employ a new person that's outside their bank. You must come in feeling very comfortable that, these people it's like a family. Yes, I'm allowed to make mistakes. And then, and all of that. So it goes that I am like master in that, making sure that people are comfortable when they join the institution.
I just love the fact that you use that word psychological safety, because that's when they develop that trust. They know that
build trust.
They build trust. You're building trust. They know that, okay, so I'm learning. If I make a mistake, it's not the end of me in this company, and that's a supportive community.
Support system that you need.
Yeah, where they can thrive. So that's amazing. That's great, great, great. All right, so we're just going to take a poll. I'm going to launch a quick poll, just a few questions. I want to see what we are learning, if we're learning. And it's so important to take what we're listening to and to try and transfer it and adapt it and begin to look at our own systems, our own companies. How is it working? How can I take what she has said here? How can I bring it and, take it to my own my situation and make sure that it works for me? So I'm going to look at some questions. Let's see how you're going to answer the questions. The first question is, how do you ensure that successors are adequately prepared for their new roles? We mentioned that a lot of times newly minted leaders fail. They get into the role and they cannot work because they were not adequately prepared. But we've heard Nneka talk about how they prepare, from identifying the position, doing tests for them, seeing where they need to be retrained, seeing where this person cannot really function here, this person will be better here. And so it's such a detailed way, a structured way of helping our staff. So what do you do? Do you do role rotations or job rotations, cross-functional assignments? Yes. On-the-job shadowing opportunities? Yes. Sometimes we bring the leaders, potential leaders, around what we call our leadership table, where they can just tap, our brains. They see how we make decisions. They do that. Clear expectations and goals, of course, it has to be part of it. They need to know the vision of our companies. Coaching and feedback sessions, so key. So when she mentioned the psychological safety, that's using your coaching skills to ensure that people are well trained. So the final answer is what? All of the above. Fantastic. We understand that all these things are important. Well done. Well done, everybody. So the next question is, how do you handle unexpected departure of key personnel? We just mentioned, what happened, the sad situation. And Nneka also mentioned in her own organization where some people have been poached. So what do you do? How do you handle it? Immediate replacement from within, that would be very good if you can get the person. Temporary solution until a permanent replacement is found. Mrs. Edu also said it. Sometimes you buy, you build, or you borrow. Sometimes you might need, somebody acting for a while. And of course, sometimes external recruitment is necessary. So all those things will, be necessary at different times. It depends on the situation. That is good. And the final question is there a contingency plan in case identified successors are not ready or available when needed? Usually we should have a plan B. And that plan B sometimes is bring somebody from outside, someone that's been well vetted, the interview process, and you bring such a person in. And let us also have it at the back of our minds. When you're training people for succession, it literally takes between 1 to 3 years. It's not something that you do in 6 months. So give yourself that amount of time to know that, yes, I've identified successors, but they need to go through this long process. So yes, there should be a contingency plan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Okay, as we begin to round up the questions for today, my dear sis, are you okay there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you so much. So, what challenges have you encountered in terms of getting people that you can even groom as successors? We know how Nigeria is sometimes. What are the battles or the challenges you faced in terms of building this succession or leadership pipeline? Do you always have good quality candidates, or what has been the challenge? Is it the training? Is it in getting good quality people? What has been the challenge in developing leadership pipelines for your different positions?
The first I would say is what I mentioned earlier on, that the competition, after you train and retrain, competition come for your staff, which is a good thing if you look at it the reverse way. Do you understand? Meaning that they think you've done a good job. So I can't complain. So once competition recognizes the depth of your talent base, they will come for them and attract them with mouth-watering offers, and so people would leave. You can't do so. What you do in this time of situation, like I said earlier on, is to continue to build a war chest, a pipeline of successors in case there are exits. Okay, so for every critical role, like you said, you have to have backup plan A and plan B, and all of that. So you continue to eyeball those yearly. You don't leave it. You have to eyeball it yearly and make sure that they're going for the trainings they're supposed to go for. Okay. And then, of course, everybody knows about the Japa syndrome. So that's a major issue. Yeah. And then they leave the country for obvious reasons, family reasons, and all of that. So what we've done is that sometimes for those that are critical roles, we allow them to work remotely. Okay. Especially those where issues are not or if the person is not in a role that is a risk for us in terms of our platforms and all that. So we allow them to work remotely. And then we've also introduced, somebody had asked earlier on, what are you doing to retain? We have introduced many retention strategies that will make sure that it's easier for young talents to stay. Okay. Now, for instance, we have approved the mortgages for our very low cadre staff, which was never done in the industry. As once you work with Fidelity for like 3 years, you're entitled to a mortgage, and it's a lot of money. So we assume that if you're able, and we'll, of course, we also give them car loans. We assume that we are working on the premise that if you give somebody what satisfies each Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're more stable. If you have a home in a good environment, you have a car that takes you to work, it should help you to settle down emotionally and even psychologically. And also, we have also introduced transportation. Once this issue of the first subsidy happened, removal, we introduced buses for for the staff buses going to all the various areas in Lagos and also in other big cities. We have buses going on various axes, and they do hop, hop, hop in all the branches along that axis. What this means is that as a staff, you can drive to the nearest branch to you and park your car there safely and join the bus. Okay? So not only do we do that, we figured, because at any time you have to be thinking about your staff, because they're the geese that lay the golden egg. And then for me, they are stakeholders, but for me, they're the stakeholders that I'm seeing every day. You understand? So they have to be happy. Yes. So what we have done also is that we have what we call the night bus. The night bus takes off at 9 p.m. Why did we put 9 p.m. there? Because we know that some technology staff and those that are working on platforms are not able to leave very early. So we have night buses running on the 3 major axes, which is the Aja axis, Lagos axis, and Apapa axis. I mean, Ikorodu axis and Apapa axis. And it's still going to do hop, hop, hop for all the branches. So if you know you're going to work very late, you target to get the 9 o'clock bus. But the buses leave at the normal buses that go all around Lagos, which are, I think, like 20 of them, go by 6:30, which is normal closing time. So when you do all of that, the pressure on them are much less. The issues around them are much less. So the desperation to Japa is reduced significantly. Since we put all these incentives in place, the mortgage for the local staff, the housing, the car loans, and then this transportation free. And these buses are well-conditioned, state-of-the-art buses, and all of that. The senior staff are even now trying to push the junior staff out of the buses. I would say no. And all that. So we have noticed a little reduction in exits. We have noticed reduction in exits. Yeah. So we're doing everything we can to retain staff.
I think that's so beautiful, because we cannot talk about succession without talking about these things. How do you, if you want to have a good succession plan, or you want to build your leadership pipeline, and you cannot retain your staff, it's not going to happen. It's going to be working. It's counterproductive, you know. So we just need to know how to be able to, first of all, attract good staff, hire right, then develop them, invest in their development, and then how to retain them. And I know there's so many other industries, people representing different industries, and they're thinking, okay, so what do we do? You've mentioned some of what you do. Sometimes we all have to go to extremes. In education, for example, what we did at some point in time was to grant full tuition to our staff, because first of all, we looked at it, it's so unfair when our teachers would come, train and teach and pour everything into students, but their own children cannot even attend the same school. So at least 2, and most of the time, I think most of our teachers are like, you know, staff, not just teachers, full tuition all the way to secondary school. That is so much. So I think the message would be for everybody to get creative. Whatever, you must get creative, and you must do over and above what you were doing before. Things are tough.
That's tough.
We really must get creative, and that's the lesson I'd like us to take from that. So I would like to ask you just 2 more questions, and we're done.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, at a meeting like this, people hear what we're doing, you've done so well and all that, and we begin to think sometimes, okay, so did she encounter anything? Did she go through any difficult times? So would like to hear any time that you can talk about that there was failure, or you did not meet the mark, what you wanted to achieve, and how you were able to come back from it. We want to know that Nneka is human like me, and like everybody listening, so that people get a good picture and they can then relate to us really properly. It could be anything, actually, any lesson, something that you went through, how you came up from it, and what lessons you learned.
I think what I can speak to here is sometimes you make some wrong judgment call in recruitment, what we call recruitment error. Because you blind spotted a trait you would have seen early, they say, no, the person will change. People don't change. People don't change, really. There's a lot of effort to get people to change. So when you notice a particular trait in somebody, don't bank on the fact that the person will change. Don't bank on the person, just let the person go so that you look for people, look for like I already mentioned it earlier on. So that's this how she does it. People don't really change, so and you like they said, there's no art of reading the mind's construction on the face. So the people will pretend this one, but once you know that somebody has this trait, like for example, I remember the bank I used to work in, the managing director was like, if you are in customer service and you don't smile, no need trying to teach you how to smile. Because it's a lot of work. I might as well get somebody who knows how to smile in customer service. So if you have an aggressive attitude, you will not qualify for customer service, because that means every day you're quarreling with customers. Do you understand? So things like that have happened. Yeah. And there are situations where you would have made a wrong judgment call, a wrong recruitment at a very high level. So you're saddled with it for a long time. Because for a very senior person to leave an institution, you have to build a very big case and all that. And you don't want to do all of that. And quite a number of times for me, I don't like to be seen to be quarreling with people. So I just try to manage until when you can't manage no more and all of that. So it's so what am I saying? What's the takeaway from this? Make sure that you do your due diligence before you recruit people, especially at very senior levels. Because if it's a very junior person, junior people even can change. But very senior people are set in their ways and they really can't change. Do you understand? So make sure you do your due diligence very well before you recruit very senior people into your organization. Because you don't want to spend useful time you're supposed to use to be building business and growing the business, to be dealing with issues of personality and all of that. So that's a mistake that I can say that I've made a couple of times, and I'll get better. Get better. Sometimes I'm very slow at recruitment at very senior levels, but because the due diligence is very intense.
Right. Yeah. I think that it's such a good one, because as you said, at senior level, where do you start from trying to change somebody who's already formed and who feels I know what I'm doing, I know my onions. And so I can imagine just being very, very careful, getting the right fit in that. And that means
you can focus on important things than separating quarrel. Some people can't even stand in an environment. They will quarrel with everybody. You don't want that. Every day are separating fights. You don't need that. And there's too much to do. Sorry?
I also like the humility in realizing that, you know what, this is the wrong hire. Sometimes we don't want to admit to ourselves that we've done something wrong.
No, I think it's easy. Yeah.
It's just very important to be humble enough to know, this is an aspect I need to work on. And you said you're getting better at that. I know you are, because the bank is exploding. So well done. Thank you so much. So we'll take some questions before we let you go. Any questions, please put in the question and answer. I don't see any questions. Any questions for Mrs. Onyeali-Ikpe? Questions are open, please. Quickly. Let's ask questions. Yeah, anybody, any question? Going. I see a lot of comments. All right. Okay, I don't know. We'll let you go, but maybe a few last words.
Yes, the few last words that I would like to say is that becoming a chief executive at the end of the day, starts from the culture of hard work, dedication to duty. having excellent is the word, not just interpersonal skills. Because you have a lot of irritations every here and there through as you're climbing the ladder. And you must possess a can-do spirit and the right attitude of a good leader. And of course, we know you have to be technically competent. And like I said much earlier on, you have to be thoroughbred professional. You have to keep studying and retraining yourself. But you must create a conducive work environment.
Absolutely.
You must institutionalize psychological safety as part of your work culture. Don't let your staff get into the business of criticizing other people. Always make sure that whenever your staff comes to complain about somebody, you say, there must be something good in this person. Tell me what it is, first of all. So that they don't get encouraged to be telling you bad things all the time. Because you know people are a messenger of bad news. So tell them there must be something very good in this person. Tell me that one. Let's start with the very good about this person and then tell me the challenge. But please tell me the very good part of it. Conducive working environment is, I don't want to say 70%, but it is very high in the percentage contribution to the success of any institution. And you must have the ability to handle your various stakeholders perfectly. Of course, I told that my staff are my most critical stakeholders. Of course, I love them with my heart. They make me look good. They give me the numbers. So I celebrate them every day. They tell me, I celebrate them every day because they're the one putting this eyeshadow and lipstick on my mouth. Because if your bank is not doing well, you'll be hiding. So they're very important. And of course, other stakeholders, the executive management, the board, the regulators, and lately the security agents have become very important stakeholders. Because every day, if it's not EFCC, it's DSS. If it's not DSS, it's this one, NAS, calling you. So they have all become very important stakeholders. So you have to employ a very high level of emotional intelligence to navigate all these without and come out unscathed. So that is and then lastly, my dear Kehinde, I'm sure you know that there's a God factor in everything that we do. The Bible says that you cannot receive anything except it's given to you by heaven. Don't mistake it. And promotion doesn't come from the east or the west or the north, but God is the one who does it. So you will do all of this in all this effort, in the physical, but you need that divine intervention all the time. So it must come from God. You must always pray. So I always pray. So I don't know about other people, but I always pray about everything that I'm about to get into. In fact, if I don't pray before I go into EFCC or before I go into NAS, or I say anything that goes wrong, I say, because I forgot to pray. I pray about every situation that I get into. A little prayer. I'm not saying bring up Bible and no. I'm saying pray and say, God, I'm going in here. Please take charge, take control.
Direct me, grant me favor.
Direct me, take control. Okay, so there's no magic in this thing. So and of course I pray about my bank every day. I pray and say, God, lead us aright. So you must so it's a lot of hard work, but I can tell you that when you're divinely led or when God is on your side, it looks as if it's easy, but it's about that's all about him and the help that we get from the covenant that you have with your God. So I have covenanted myself and my work to God and my children, my family, everything about me. So I just continue to,
I mean, people had, there are just a few questions that is just, honestly, that's just a beautiful thing. And I'm so glad that people can see that, success, people look at people sometimes, but they don't know the secret of that success is God. And I like when we come out boldly to own it. It is God. A few questions. What has been your lowest moment as the MD CEO and how did you deal with it? I'll just take 2 or 3, please, as we round up. What has been your lowest moment as the MD CEO and how did you deal with it?
I would say that my lowest moment as MD CEO is when I had to deal with the wrong hire, like I said. And yes, and I struggled not to, by my very nature, I'm not somebody that likes to bring down other people. I struggle not to say this is my challenge with this person to my supervisors. So I'm turning between telling it the way it is and defending the reason why I don't want to do something. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And those things are heavy on your mind. But you just pray for God to solve this problem by himself. And this particular instance, he solved it. So, so yeah. So let me not say more than this. Yeah.
All right.
Those are low moments for me.
Okay, then does Dr. Onyeali-Ikpe advise women and how do you advise women to handle the imposter syndrome? When women feel, oh, I'm just not good enough. Can I really do this? It seems as if I'm just pretending I'm not really there. How do you encourage women to handle such feelings of inadequacy sometimes?
Hmm. I don't like it when women feel like this. I don't, because that's what encourages the male folk to feel, to really, what I can say is that people should do their homework. What I mean by homework, you need to work hard. As a woman, you need to do 130, would I say 130? I'm sure, okay, 150%, 200%.
Tell me about it.
You need to do 200% before the fall, because it is, please, let nobody judge themselves like that. Everybody has the capacity to do something. There must be something that you're very good at. Because if you ever have the deficit attitude towards yourself, then you won't get there. You are the child of a high God, and you are you are the image of your creator. There must be some strength in you that you continue to dwell on. Don't dwell on the small issues. Don't dwell on the small issues, the ones that you didn't get right. Let us dwell on the ones you're doing right. And if you continue to tell yourself the ones that you're doing right, over time, you will learn that attitude. I don't accept anything. No. Anybody that say, okay, I've heard, I'll do it better next time, and I just move on.
Yeah.
I don't, because once you start doing that, you get worse. You get worse. Your confidence, you lose your confidence. You must not lose your confidence. You must not. For what? There must be something. Even if it's only motherhood that you have, is it easy to be a mother? At least you produced a child. So if anybody's telling you, do you think, at least I'm a mother? Some people are not mothers, and they're begging God every day. So God showed me favor by making me a mother. If it is that you are married, you say, God, at least God gave me a husband. And you say, at least God gave me children.
Must have something to
there must be something good in your life. Let's dwell on that.
Yes.
Let's dwell on that. Let's not dwell on the ones you can't do well, because once you start dwelling on the ones you can't do well, your enemies will latch onto it, or your detractors or people who want to bring you down will latch onto that. And you don't want that. When they know that you're forever on a high, when they know that you're forever on a high, somebody says, this woman, are you ever annoyed? I don't get annoyed, because I don't think that anybody, I get annoyed naturally, but I don't think that anybody deserves to ruin my yesterday, ruin my today, and ruin tomorrow. It's not possible now. That is giving the person too much, whatever. So if the person that got you annoyed yesterday comes there and sees you laughing, the person will say, oh, does it mean I didn't even get to this woman? That is the way, because you can't. I owe it to my lovely children. I owe it to my husband. I owe it to my parents, especially who delivered me, to be happy. You have to be on the high always. I didn't say take drugs, but you have to be on the high always. And let me tell you something. They say no wonder she's always eating. I say I like food, so I like to eat. So when I eat, it makes me happy.
The day I came to minister at the
Fidelity
thing you had, you said something on that day that stuck with me. You said, I don't get worried about anything. You said, why will I worry? Today is EFCC, tomorrow is this. I do not worry about anything. Can you just talk a bit about that? Because I know sometimes as leaders, we really get bogged down with issues.
Let me tell you, you will not be a good leader if the people with you don't see strength. They have to see the strength that you're able to rise above any situation, so that they too be able to rise above the situation when it comes to them. Okay? If you follow the way the EFCC, DSS, National Assembly call you every day, you won't do any work. You're not there laughing. You'll be smiling. So one day, one of them said, I said, you will not kill me now. Sure, you won't kill me. Sure, you will allow me to come home to my children and my family. They started laughing. Everyone started laughing. You have to energize the environment around you in laughter. We cannot allow ourselves to be sucked into this misery that is pervading the environment. No. Why should you? Because you get high blood pressure. When you got high blood pressure, you cannot even afford the drugs anymore. Then you'll be sick. No, no money. No. I don't think anything. Not even the situation of somebody said, what about this dollar that's 1,800? I said I stopped buying when it was 1,002. Because I think that 1.18 and 1.5 is not the real. Even I can't even say that I bought at 1.2. I probably bought less at 1,000 or 900 and something. And he said, how come? I said, I'll be buying whatever I need in Naira. So what do you do? I said, if I want to travel, I will just to hold something small. I still have some there, but I'm not worried about it. So you're not worried. I said, well, so what can I do about it?
That is it. In fact, I think that's just a beautiful way, because leaders sometimes, that's why I brought it up. Sometimes we worry about everything. And what I heard you say, and what you're repeating is, look, be happy, be confident, trust God.
Trust God.
And also just equip yourself. Do everything you know how to do. Equip yourself, learn, train, do everything you should do.
Celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself.
Look, just hold your head up high and just go there and shine. Well done. Thank you, my dear sis. Thank you so much. Can I have the claps, 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 claps? Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. And we round up tomorrow. It's been an amazing, for me, I've enjoyed every single day. Every speaker has brought their own personality, their uniqueness, and it's just been amazing. Tomorrow we round up, and it's going to be the because then tomorrow I'm also going to be talking a lot about my own situation and my companies, the group, Meadowhall Group, and all the companies under it. And we're going to look at the succession plan and all that. So thank you so much once again, my dear sis. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have been here.
Thank you so much.
I hope I've encouraged the ladies.
Yes, I hope you've all been encouraged, and sign up for the mastermind right now. Go and sign up for the mastermind. I'm bringing the mastermind to Fidelity as well. You'll hear from me.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you very much. God bless you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks. Bye.